presentation on PSAT. And what I want to go do is take you through a history, a genesis, and development of PSAT, and all the definite founding blocks that has been built on. Now, our archives stretch from 1947, with the oldest document from We Are Not Alone. That is possibly a 1943 document from Rockland State Prison, where there was a psychiatric ward where people were incarcerated and decided to form, when they were out of there, a psychiatric survivor organization, and they called it WANA, We Are Not Alone. Now, it is a strange thing that happened to WANA. WANA started out on its own totally, and in a few years it was taken over by an organization that just escapes my mind now. The
Project Release?
The foundation? What the?
Oh, Foundation House.
Fountain House.
Fountain House.
Yes,
And as a matter of fact, there was a tremendous amount of conflict when they took over when Fountain House took over, because before, the WANA members had used to be on their own. They made their own arrangements, they made their own, they had their own meetings, they felt free. Social workers, as is even now happening in Toronto, are starting to come in and taking over everything. Like, you can even look at, I'm not to be critical, but you can even look at the Edlin Place. Edlin Place is being totally overrun by social workers as it is now, and they have the right of way in determining where a person goes. Now, I'd like to talk about some of the landmarks in the coming to be of PSAT. First of all, the most important person before a few of us came into existence was Alan Markman, who had started the Society for the Collection and Preservation of Anti-Psychiatry Artifacts. He had a radio program at WBAI, which broadcast programs, and he brought programs on psychiatric and anti-psychiatric issues, and he was totally, like, he was just fantastic. He interviewed everybody. He even went to Brazil for a while. He went many, many places in the world, and he collected a fantastic collection of material, which we have now. He couldn't handle it when he was in New York. He was moving at the time. He couldn't handle it. We had gotten a hold of him, or he had gotten a hold of us. Have you any ideas? I think we got a hold of him, and we surprised him that we were still in operation. Now, as a matter of fact, Jeff was away at the time, and I handled all the negotiations myself. But then, yeah, you were away at the time.
I don't remember that, but I remember being in touch with you. Anyway, go on.
And that was one of the hardest things, because I was just coming out of a very, very low. And so with Jeff's help, of course with Jeff's help, we made all the arrangements. We paid for the shipping and everything, and he sent up 11 boxes stuffed to the gill with unbelievable documents, journals, correspondence, radio scripts, both typed and handwritten. It was just an amazing collection of material, and it is one of the 2 or 3 most important collections of material we have. Now, there is another founding stone of PSAT, and that was when I myself suggested in 1982, and I can distinctly remember the meeting. It was a meeting of Coalition Against Psychiatric Services, when a great many people were there, and I said to them, you know what we need? A Mad Archives. We really need them at archives. And everybody says, oh, no. Not that it was not advisable at that time, but we were in a stretch drive with the progressive conservative government of that time, pushing them to make changes in mental health law and other services. And at that time, a lot of us who have since become alienated from each other because they became professionals who did such things as putting through the CTOs and other things, even that they're now trying to do, became alienated. But I did mention Matt Archives. I was an archivist at the University of Toronto over a period of 16 to 17 years before my breakdown. And I loved archives, and I knew a lot about archives. And I still have some recollection of archives. Now, another founding stone or beginning of PSAT in 1990s, and Jeff will have maybe a clearer recollection of the date. Jeff sent out a questionnaire to, I don't know how many, but to a tremendous number of organizations, asking them, do you have your constitution? Do you have your bylaws? Do you have your minutes? Do you have any correspondence? And he tried to accumulate as much as he possibly could of what there existed out there, because at the time he was working on his thesis, Recollection of Patients Past. Go ahead, Dave.
That was with Alan, too, Alan Markman. We were working with him.
Sorry.
Sorry, that was with Alan Markman in September of 1995.
Yeah.
Alan and I were working on that.
Yeah. You did that with Alan?
Yes, Alan. It was actually his original idea, and then I worked with him on it.
No kidding. Oh, that's fresh news.
Yeah.
Now, PSAT itself began in 2001 with the presence of Mel Starkman, Don Weitz, Jeffrey Ohm, and Janet Brooke. And we started off as a very small organization with practically no money whatsoever. We then, we talked about getting we talked about a lot of things. Then we started getting more people on the board, like Lucy Costa, and other people. We went through a number of years of growth where we did a lot of things. We accomplished a lot of things, more than any archives had accomplished. But the biggest thing was in 2003 when we finally got a home. First of all, the first home we had was supposed to be Park, but that broke down, and we got a home in Sound Times. Lana passed a resolution at Sound Times AGM. She says, let PSAT come to Sound Times. And we got a little office downstairs, and that's all we got. And that was our beginning, where we were going to have a telephone, and we kept some records in there. Then I don't know exactly what year, but a year or two after that, Lana herself suggested that I go to Paul Quinn, who was the executive director of the Gersting Center, and ask Paul, do you have any space for us? He says, yeah, that's a great idea. Let me take it to my board. And the board approved generously and everything that we asked for. And they helped us build a small location downstairs, which we still have to this day. Now I'm going to go through quickly some of the collections we have. One of the first collections we have, but we can't call it the Lilith Winkler collection because she doesn't want it called. So really it's the BCLS collection. And she gave us a whole slew of material that is totally unorganized to this day, but is worth organizing. Then there was Don Weitz with legal and advocacy cases. anti-psychiatry, anti-shock material, all kinds of materials, journals, letters, correspondence of his personal involvement. And that's now in 23 boxes or something like that. So it's in permanent durable boxes and it's preserved. That's all we could do at this time, is preserve it. We couldn't organize it. We do have a finding gate for it, which will be published in the not too distant future. Then we got a lot of other material. From Mind Freedom, we got boxes every year. 3, 4 boxes every year from David Oakes, who his mother, blessed mother of his, yes she is, because she was, I think, in her 90s, and she packed all these boxes. And they sent them out to us, and they're in the process of being organized. Then we got, just this last year, we got from Rich Shimrod, Ontario's Society Against Psychiatry. We got 2 big boxes. Also last year we got 2 big boxes of Ellen Litvak, who was, as I think I told you earlier on, totally surprised that we got that material. And she looked at it, that you really have that? You really have that? It's amazing. It's from the Puzzle Factory, and some material from the Friendly Spike Theater Band. So we had journals, newspapers, correspondence. We also have practically, not completely, but a full run of Madness Network News, which was the most important journal in San Francisco that got the anti-psychiatry movement off to a start, mainly working with Leonard Roy Frank, and of course we have a full collection of Phoenix Rising, and not only do we have a full collection of Phoenix Rising, but it's now on the web, and if you plug in our Psychiatric Survivor Archives website, you can go directly to the link that will show you all the archives, all the Phoenix Rising. We have many other newsletters and journals. In a nutshell, Mind Freedom News, which originally was Dendron. We have all those. I think we have a full collection, if not nearly a full collection. The significance of PSAT. First successful collection of organized archives, specifically tailored as an archives that would adhere to archival and preservation rules of professional standards. First archives to publicize and to put on public events to raise awareness. And we won the 2003 annual special mention from the Toronto Heritage Board. We preserved the greatest amount of surrounding, we helped to preserve the greatest amount of surrounding wall of Queen Street, which was intended to be totally and absolutely raised. Even people that had lived in Queen Street itself, and all the consultants, and I'm not going to name them, but one consultant who is now on our side was behind the raising of the walls, and now they're going to be preserved. They have the plaques. You know, we had the first town halls to preserve the walls. We had a wall plaque, 2010 dedication, as Jeff mentioned. We have a fundraising campaign to make the walls self-sustaining, and we have 100 or more wall tours, 99 wall tours. Thanks totally to Jeff and all the people that have helped them, without which, without a rainout, has there been one rainout?
No, not yet.
There hasn't been one rainout, and those wall tours have gone on. 99, and soon enough the 100th will be celebrated. That in itself is an exceptional record. You would think even the spirits are on our side. Achievements. The newsletter we put out, which is called Voices, which she isn't here now, but I want to really give tremendous thanks to Eugenia and to Eric, who will put that out, mainly Eugenia, but Eric has done his part too, and we have come a long way. Anyways, that took up about 15 minutes, and now I want to give the floor over to my brother and friend who saved me from Queen Street. I'd still be rotting there in Queen Street if it wasn't for Don Weitz. And
well, Mel should give himself a lot of credit in that. So, that's very good. He covered most of what a lot of good stuff, a lot of our good collections and very important ones. I just want to say special thanks to you, Mel, and Jeff, for particularly for helping us to get out to a very good start as of 10 years ago. Oh God, all those years have passed by. I feel proud and honored to have close friends like you, and just to remind people, Mel is a trained archivist, who we are fortunate to have as our archivist, and Jeff is a brilliant historian, author, and a psychiatric survivor, of course. And I want to make two major points. So in the time that I have to distinguish PSAT from all other archivists, from all other archives. One, it is the only archives in Canada, and perhaps in North America, but certainly in Canada, dedicated to collecting and preserving material produced by psychiatric survivors, published and unpublished, personal stories, articles, essays, autobiographies, photos, videos, audio tapes, CDs, DVDs, and artifacts. That's one point. The second point, it is also the only archives in Canada, and anywhere else for that matter, that is totally controlled by psychiatric survivors. For many years, we have had an elected board of editors, and I'm proud of their achievements. Now, Mel went over the accessions, so I won't get into it, but maybe I'll refer to the early history of funding of the archives. Oh, well. Anyway, I'll read this. I want to mention, one of the proud accessions we have, which Mel touched on, Phoenix Rising. Phoenix Rising, the only anti-psychiatry magazine in Canada that was edited, published, and controlled by psychiatric survivors. Phoenix Rising was published in Toronto for 10 consecutive years, 1980 to 1990. Thanks to our first editorial collective and a $5,400 startup grant for Plura, a multi-denominational church organization here in Ontario. The first 4 issues were edited, laid out, and published in 1 year in a 2-bedroom apartment on Spadina Avenue in Toronto, which I shared with my very close friend, Carla McKay, an outstanding lawyer, and she was one of the treasurer, and I think one of the leading lights, of course, in our collective. I can still remember sitting next to her in the winter of 1979 when she suddenly and joyfully came up with the title, she blurted out, "Phoenix Rising." Carla knew it was inspired by the ancient myth of the phoenix, the mythic bird rising from the ashes reborn. As a symbol, Phoenix Rising, which as Mel said, is totally accessible on the PSAT site, still resonates with me and many other survivors who have been close to death while going through the fires and ashes of psychiatric abuse, dehumanization, and incarceration. Mel mentioned Alan Markman's study. I won't get into that fantastic collection, and Lilith Finkler, who generously gave us a lot of good material. I want to here give a special thanks to Benjamin Chan, the student at York who scanned all 32 issues of the magazine, and Eric Fabris who posted them on our site. Right now, the biggest priority, as I have said, here at the AGM is to really find space so we can really do justice, provide sufficient space. We need at least 300, maybe 400, 300 square feet easily downtown to house our collections, to find a reading room, a research room where students and psych survivors or students and anybody else who wants to research the history of psychiatric survivors and the movement and so forth can come. And I think that is a very top priority, is this space. So anybody that can help would be great. So I'll just wind up saying, I just want to say sincere thanks to everybody here at the AGM, and with your support, PSAT will continue to grow and succeed as a valuable and empowering community resource for psychiatric a resource of psychiatric survivor literature and history, including our continuing struggles for human rights and respect. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.